So many taxes. I need a drink.
Now, reporting from Fox headquarters in New York, John Stossel.
Where is America heading? The political left and right have two different visions for our future. The left wants more government. The right says we should have less.
We use our money for what?
You heard the cries of outrage for the people of Bell, California, who discovered that their town managers paid themselves hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Shame on you! Shame on you!
You were a crook yesterday, you're a crook today, and you'll be a crook tomorrow.
Maybe. This week, they were arrested.
They used the tax dollars collected from the hard-working citizens of Bell as their own piggy bank.
But much of what they did was what lots of politicians do. Vote to spend taxpayer money on what they think is important, themselves.
They want to do whatever the hell they want.
Exactly. Rarely is there such blatant self-dealing as there was in Bell, but every day politicians spend your tax dollars on their vision of what America should have. That's what some Tea Partiers are angry about. In this case, they're yelling, "Kill the health care bill." But Congress didn't kill it.
The bill is passed.
Passed along with the Serve America Act and Wall Street reform, plus foreclosure relief and children's health insurance and extended unemployment and, of course, the stimulus. They always spend more. Thomas Jefferson said, "It's the natural progress of things for liberty to yield and government to gain ground." But never before outside wartime has government gained so much ground.
Just got to stop spending. It's got to be a point to the end of it.
For most of the life of America, and when we grew the fastest, government spent, in today's dollars, just a few $100s per person. But today, the federal government alone spends $10,000 per American. Total government now eats up 40% of the economy. 40%. Yet the political class always claims they need more.
Many people are hurting.
Help America's steelworkers.
Pass funding for black farmers now.
I average 20 to 30 meetings a day in my office, and 20 to 30 meetings are people asking for something from the federal government.
Paul Ryan is an unusual congressman because he believes government should do less.
You're telling your colleagues, stay out? Don't do anything?
Yeah. Well, in many of these cases, yes.
That's not a popular idea around here. Congress listens to testimony all day, and 99% comes from people asking for stuff.
I propose that Congress pass legislation.
I propose that Congress
ask Congress.
There's a reason people show up and beg.
It does work and it does pay off.
So the people who are connected get the goodies.
That's exactly right. And that's what happens in a big government society.
Most people like getting free stuff.
Yeah. But I think more and more people in America are beginning to wake up to the fact that this thing is coming unglued.
When the health care bill was close to passage, Ryan took on the president directly.
This bill does not control costs. This bill does not reduce deficits.
There's some strong disagreements on the numbers here, Paul.
When it was all over, the president smiled and they shook hands, but they came nowhere close to agreeing.
It's adding trillions in obligations that we have no means to pay for it.
Why are your colleagues saying it's okay to spend more? Are you saying they're just stupid, or they don't care, or they're pandering for votes?
I think, well, pandering could be a part of it, but I think what it is they believe that the government should be far larger and far bigger.
Stop spending so much.
Well, that's something you should tell the Republicans, John.
Democratic Congressman Rob Andrews is a friend of Paul Ryan's. He says, don't blame us.
President Reagan and both President Bush has spent more than either President Clinton or President Obama.
So the all of you stop it.
I agree with that. But to assign responsibility to the Democrats for this problem is not factually accurate.
It's true that in the past, government has grown just as much, sometimes more, under Republicans. But these days, it's the Democrats who are most eager to spend.
There you go. It's done.
You ever think government's doing too much? This is what built the country. This is the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. It's pretty thin. Limited government. I mean, you guys have gone way beyond this.
I don't think that a Social Security system is excessive government. I don't think that a Medicare system is excessive government. I don't think that the student loan system, I don't think that's excessive government.
We have to make sure that the most vulnerable people are always protected.
Protected by a bigger government is the progressives' argument. And Columbia University professor Mark Lamont Hill makes their case better than most.
We have suffering everywhere.
Here he's giving a commencement address in California.
Republicans and Democrats, poor people and rich people, middle class, black, white, everybody has to be involved in this struggle.
What those of us who are at the top of the economic ladder have to do is be willing to make sacrifices that ultimately will benefit everyone. Everyone benefits when we pay a little bit more to create universal health care. Everyone benefits when we pay a little more to have better public education systems. Everyone benefits from that.
And by we, you mean government.
We always talk about the government like it's this monster in the hills that comes down and hands things out and takes our tax money. We are the government.
Well, yes.
Oh, yeah. Only in libertarian fairy tales. In real life, the government is us.
The government is us?
In your ideal world, what percent of the economy should government be?
For me, housing, healthcare, and education are in addition to national defense, are things that the government must provide for people. And that's probably where we differ. So if that means 20%, I'm okay with it. If it means 30%, I'm okay with it. I don't think it will ever get that big.
It's already at 40%. I mean, here's the graph of the growth of government since the beginning of the Republic. For most of the history of America, it was tiny, less than 5%.
Right.
Now,
much of that has to do with inefficiency and waste.
But you want more.
I don't want more inefficiency and waste. Where you and I part ways.
It's not big enough now?
It is not big enough now. It is not big enough now.
Really? It is awfully big. So big that we're now $13 trillion in debt. And yet they keep spending more.
There you go. There you go. We are done.
But how will we pay for it? We fight most about the income tax.
Raising taxes is a recipe for disaster.
But there are so many other taxes. Payroll, corporate, capital gains, estate, sales taxes. In fact, equal to the income tax are dozens of sneaky taxes you may not even know about. You and I pay them all day long, from the moment I wake up and turn on a light. I pay more when I brush my teeth and license my dog. My building pays property and fuel taxes and adds it to my monthly bill. And when I leave home to take the subway to work, I pay the Metropolitan Commuter Transportation Mobility Tax. At work, I make some phone calls.
Yes, absolutely.
Or get a bite to eat or a soda to drink.
I'd like a smoked turkey in this.
When I gas up my car, as much as a quarter of the price of gas is federal, state, and city excise taxes. Heck, people pay sales taxes all day long.
So many taxes. I need a drink.
I'm lucky I don't smoke. Yet some people say we should pay more. And all those taxes are just fine, say progressives.
It costs to live in a civilized society, and we all need to pay our fair share.
Our fair share. Progressives say taking from the rich to help the poor is simply the fairest system.
No, the fairest system is the one that rewards the makers in society as opposed to rewarding the takers in society.
Arthur Brooks wrote The Battle, which argues that a fight between free enterprise and big government will shape our future.
The way that our culture is moving now is toward more redistribution, toward more progressive taxation, exempting more people from paying anything and loading more of the taxes onto the very top earners in our society.
But I'm wealthy. It's kind to take it away from me and give it to people who need it more.
Actually, it's not. The government does not create wealth. It uses wealth that's been created by the private sector. Americans are in open rebellion today because the government is threatening to take us from a maker nation into taker nation status.
A taker nation? Well, there are plenty of takers. I'll introduce you to one when we come back. Some people say either you're a maker or a taker. And today the makers and takers are battling for America's soul.
It's a battle because we're deciding on our culture. 60% of Americans take more out of the public finance system than they pay in. They get more in public services than they pay in taxes.
How do you give a rebate to people that didn't put any bait in?
There are makers and there are takers. And I lived the life of a taker.
Star Parker was a taker. She lived off welfare for 7 years. She says the welfare bureaucracy encouraged her to stay dependent.
And on the form, they just made sure that you didn't work, you didn't save, and you didn't get married.
And if you didn't work or save or marry, you got a check.
Right. 2 checks, 1st and the 15th.
And let's go
Food
back.
stamps too, and all your medical expenses paid, and all the daycare for your kids so I can hang out at Venice Beach all afternoon.
So she did. The creators of welfare meant well, meant to help people, but handouts have unintended consequences.
But once I found out about welfare, why work when I can hang out here? This was fabulous, you know?
Even if welfare encouraged dependency, progressives say, other programs don't.
We have things like public housing. We have all sorts of things that are designed not to give people just a handout, but to give people a fighting chance.
A fighting chance? So many people vandalized their public housing projects that governments ended up destroying them. Again and again.
They build it, it wrecks neighborhoods, and then they blow it up.
Public housing doesn't wreck neighborhoods. Unattended public housing wrecks neighborhoods. When we look at the best moments of public housing, like the Taylor homes early in the 1960s in Chicago, they worked out just fine.
Fine? Government programs do often start nicely. But within 15 years, the Taylor homes were a crime-ridden, graffiti-covered wreck.
The drugs are on them.
The government's solution? Once again, demolish the entire project. And yet, the left wants more handouts.
I think that the basic affordances of democratic citizenship are housing, health care, and education. We have to make sure that
What happened to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness?
That's like secret code for housing, health care, and education. It seems to me...
Well, but that's a big step beyond.
You can't have life, liberty, and happiness if you don't have access to a hospital. You can't have it if you don't have access to a basic education.
But if you leave people alone to have life, liberty, and to pursue their own happiness, that's different from taking money from one group of people to give other people housing and health care.
First of all, we're not giving people housing and health care, and people pay taxes. Even people who live in public housing pay taxes. What we're doing, again, is creating an investment.
We're not teaching dependency?
No, I think that you always run the risk of intergenerational laziness, but I don't think that the welfare state necessarily means that.
But it does, says Star Parker.
It's so much easier to take than to make. I think that that's one of the greatest tragedies of becoming a taker, is you don't think about that somebody else had to make this, and you don't think about what if I tried on my own. I was just entitled to it.
Entitled to a nice apartment on a tree-lined street with a balcony.
And I had a fireplace, I had a spa in the back. And
Stories like hers drove the push for welfare reform.
Today we are taking an historic chance to make welfare what it was meant to be. A second chance, not a way of life.
Some people predicted trauma we haven't known since the cholera epidemics. Families will fracture. 1 million children could be forced into poverty.
There would be people starving in the streets.
Nobody starved. The record numbers of people that were on there just left the welfare system and nobody died.
Star Parker found jobs.
I started a little magazine and it began to grow over time.
She never returned to welfare.
Most people went and got jobs, and some went and went home, apologized to their mom, and moved in and started over, got back into school. Folks started thinking about their own life again.
Nearly 2 million children rose out of poverty. Welfare caseloads fell by